Do you notice anything different about my Polaris Ranger? I'll give you a hint. Need another clue? Welcome back to DIY My Way. Besides some tool holders and a chainsaw holder, I really haven't made many modifications to my Polaris Ranger. But recently I've decided it was high time I tricked this thing out properly. Starting with a better way of charging it with a charging port, which I'll show you, and then most recently the LED lights front and back. And there are more projects coming. So in this video I'll cover the details on the mods I've made so far.
When I added LED lights to my tractor, it opened my eyes to the benefits of having super bright light to work by after dark. While the headlights on my Ranger are adequate for night driving, there's no comparison to the light bars, as you'll see later in the video. I started with the rear LED lights. The first thing I needed was a way to mount them, so I reused the corner braces I had used on my tractor for my side lights before I added the canopy, but they would need to be modified to fit on the Ranger. By the way, there's a full list of the materials and tools I used in the video description. I cut one of the ears of the braces to 1.5 inches long, leaving 2 of the original mounting holes. Smoothed off the cut end, then cut the other ear to 3.5 inches long. And smooth the edges and rounded the corners. I drilled a new 3/8 inch hole in the center of the 3.5 inch ear, 3/4 of an inch from the end. That will work nicely, so I make a second bracket. Using one of my newly made mounting brackets as a template, I mark where the holes need to be drilled and use my automatic punch to mark divots to keep the drill bit on course. I drill pilot holes with a smaller bit and then use a step drill bit to drill 3/8 inch holes. Then it's just a matter of attaching the brackets with 1 inch 3/8 inch bolts, flat washers, lock washers, and nuts. That one is done. And the other. Before modifying the LED lights, I test them out on the bench, and they all worked fine. Next, I put a bead of silicone caulk around the lenses for extra waterproofing. Now it's time for the delicate work of attaching the waterproof electrical connectors. These are the same kind I use for my tractor LED lights. First, the silicone rubber boots go on the wires. Then I strip about 1/4 inch of insulation off the ends of the wires. Next, I crimp on male connector pins to both wires. This special crimper tool crimps one set of ears around the wire connection and another larger set of ears around the insulation of the wire to act as a strain relief for the wire. Then I push the pins into the male connector body until they lock in place with a click. I shove the weatherproof boots down into the connector. Lastly, I put a little bit of silicone caulk around where the wires come out of the LED light bar. This is the stock Polaris headlight switch, which doesn't match the style of the new switches, so it's got to go. And these are the cool looking new switches to be installed. Out with the old switch, and in with the new one. Fortunately, the pinout of the old and new switches is the same, so I just have to push the connector on the switch. There, much better. I can also go ahead and install the rear light switch. The connector pigtails are hooked up per the switch instructions. Here's a detailed diagram of the switch wiring. There we go. The front light bar switch will have to wait until I move the charging indicator elsewhere on the dashboard. Now you might be wondering where these lights will hook up in the electrical system. Well, on the Ranger EV there's a 12-volt 10-amp terminal block for accessories. This is a switched positive terminal, which is on when the key switch is turned on. This is the negative terminal. And this one is the always-on positive terminal, which provides 12 volts 24/7. And for reference, here's a simplified schematic of the wiring for the rear lights. I made up a short length of 2-conductor 16-gauge cable with crimp-on eyelets connectors connected to the switch positive and negative terminals. The switch end has crimp-on female spade connectors. These will take power to the rear light switch. Black to black and red to red. Now comes the fun part of routing the wire for the rear lights to the switch. I start by feeding the wire behind the seat and into the battery compartment. Then push the wire toward the front of the Ranger. With a little luck, it appears where I'd hoped it would. I grab it and pull it up to the top, making sure I have enough slack to reach the switch. Then I put zip ties loosely in several places so that the wire is held up high and follows the rim of the battery compartment. I keep the zip ties loose because a few more wires will follow this same route and then be covered with protective wire loom. Now I feed the wire up toward where the rear lights will be mounted. Then feed a wire with a female connector attached from near the right rear light to the left rear light. Now is a good time to install the right LED light with the hardware provided. And make the connection. I push a short section of wire with a female connector up over the top of the cabin frame, and then connect it to the light. I label the wire from the switch with an R for rear lights. Then use a piece of clear heat shrink tubing to make sure the label stays put. Since I'll have several wires coming from this same area, it's important to label them. Next, I twist the positive and negative wires going to the lights together. And then crimp butt connectors to them. Then I put heat shrink tubing on the switch wire conductors, crimp them to the butt connectors, and shrink the tubing. I label the other end of the switch wire with an R, then separate the conductors, cutting the black wire shorter because it only has to connect to the negative post of the accessory terminal strip. The red wire has to reach all the way to the switch. I crimp an eyelet connector to the black wire, then attach it to the negative post. Next, I crimp a female spade connector to the red wire. And connect it to the switch. The camera lost focus at an inopportune time, so this is the wire I connected. So let's test it out. Bingo! Stay tuned for part 2, where I install the front light bar and change the charging port from this to this. Also, I test out the lights at night. If you enjoy these videos, please help me keep them coming by clicking the like button, commenting below, and subscribing. Thanks for watching.